Okay, I hear the church bells ring, so it should be about time. Thank you very much, and welcome everyone to the very first episode of Digital Twins Around the World. Today, we're going to talk about Reliability 4.0. This is the first episode, so we are trying a few things out, so give us a slack here and there maybe. But even if you get bored of my rumbling and stumbling, I'm pretty sure you will love this episode. And if not for me, then for our guest, Duarte, Filipe of the Navigator Company. I'm Jan Hanken, your host, and I will lead a little bit through this interview and this conversation. And Duarte will talk about his experience with digital transformation with the Navigator Company. He will do a little presentation in the beginning, and then we jump into a conversation. If you have any questions for us, please do post them to Nicholas, who's in charge of the technology. I'm just sitting here and talk. He's actually the boss. So let him know. And he will read those questions in a Q&A at the end of the session. And we will try to answer as many as possible at that time. And without further ado, Duarte, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Nicholas, for this fantastic organization. It's a pleasure to me. We've met 1 year ago or so in the Techstars event. Then we had the opportunity to work together. So it is a pleasure for me to choose me as the first guest of this series of webinars. And I hope to bring something to the table, something interesting to our guests, and to share a little bit about my experience in the digital roadmap that we've designed for the asset management and maintenance activities, in which obviously digital twins and the reliability 4.0 concept is a big key. So thank you very much once again, and hopefully this 1 hour conversation will be very interesting, and you'll be happy then to talk a little bit more with Jan and with Netlum to know a little bit more about their offering and the possibility to have them as partners.
So I wanted to have that in the end already, but now that you mention it, you can go to our website. You can always go to our website. There's a link where you can actually book a meeting with me, and we can discuss a little bit things all around digital twins, digital transformation, and how we maybe can help. Maybe just have a nice conversation about the topic. I'm always curious, so don't be shy. Just register, book a meeting, and I'm really excited to talk. Duarte, that was an amazing introduction. You basically said everything I could possibly say. Maybe in addition, we have been working together a little bit last year on a very interesting, exciting project that we can maybe mention later as well when we talk about digital twins. And I've seen your passion for this digital transformation topic. I've seen you communicate on various levels within the corporation, which I also want to talk about a little bit later on. And I'm really excited for the next hour and to hear a bit more about your experiences and the good and the bad, whatever you can share. I think everybody's really interested to hear about that. And with that, I will hand, or Nicholas will hand to you control to have a little presentation in the beginning before we get started.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to make a small introduction about the company, about the Navigator, which is the company I represent, and talk to you a little bit about our experience in the definition of a roadmap for the asset management and maintenance initiatives around the concept of Industry 4.0 and how to transform our processes using and leveraging those processes with the usage of the new technology. So, Nicola, if you can pass to the next slide. The Navigator Company is a pulp and paper company, so we are close to a chemical company. We are, in fact, the largest manufacturer in Europe for our specific type of paper, so printing paper. And we produce also, we are Europe leaders in also in our type of pulp, which is bleached eucalyptus pulp, which we believe that it is much better to produce a good and quality paper. We produce also tissue paper, and obviously due to the our industrial processes, we are energy producers as well, and that's a huge part of our business. So we are very diverse. We have a lot of assets to manage. So as you can see, our annual production capacity, we are a huge producer in terms of finishing goods and also in terms of energy. So if we can pass to the next one, Nicholas, please. Okay, so we have 4 industrial sites in several locations around Portugal, and we have the production capacities. We were pioneers in the integration. So we have in the same site the production of pulp, and then we could integrate in the production of paper that could give us a huge leverage in terms of competitiveness, in terms of the lack of logistics that we have, and of course give us some kind of diversity in terms of the locations, in terms of the products that we have. If you can pass to the next animation. So we have a lot of physical assets, huge ones. We are talking about recovery boilers, biomass boilers, also gas and steam turbines, 8 paper machines between the office paper and the tissue paper. And of course, those paper machines and all those assets are run by a lot of motors, a lot of pumps, a lot of gearboxes and other auxiliary equipment. So this was an intro slide just to give you the context that we have a lot of assets in our portfolio, and very diverse ones. So we have lots of challenges to run and to try to be cost effective and to run our operations in the more optimized way. If we can pass to the next one. So with all these assets to manage, we think that we thought that it was a good opportunity to rethink about our operations and rethink about our goals. And with the new technologies that we have right now available, we've designed a program which we've called Reliability 4.0, in which we want to achieve a culture of excellence in reliability and asset management, of course, based on the risk, because our budget is not endless, it's not infinitive. So we need to manage based on risk. We need to align our cost and performance, and of course, based on this digital transformation and the new technologies that we have in place. So the core of this program is reliability policy. So we will focus on define once again what are the critical assets, the ones that we need to pay attention because they can cause us real damage, real pain in our operations, and can cause us downtime. And after that, we can start by redefining our criticality based on this, and define the proper strategy for each one of those assets, and of course execute that strategy, so the maintenance plan, and then collect more information about the asset condition, and with this try to revise all this cycle. And in this continuous cycle, of course, that digital twins will play a very important role, because they will help us to build digital models about the physical asset, and with those correlate all the information, all the data, valuable data that we have of those assets, and try to predict and also make support us in the decision making process, which will be very important for us to keep the excellence level that we have, and of course to guarantee the sustainability of our business. If we go to the next slide, Nicholas. So the backbone of this strategy and this program. It is the one software that we are implementing, which is the asset performance management. It is a program that it is way beyond the enterprise asset management. So it is something that can tackle these three main challenges that I've talked to you about. So with this software, we will be able to have visibility and therefore manage our risk, try to reduce costs, and at the same time, obviously improve our availability, because we work together with production. So we need to improve our availability and of course the reliability of our assets. And as I was saying, this asset performance management system will aim to capture and integrate all the data that comes around the industrial equipment, and we will try to have a single vision about those equipment and try to build on the strategy and all the actions that we want to perform in order to achieve this triangle of outcomes. If we go to the next slide. Of course, around this backbone, we have several digital enablers, what we call the digital enablers, according to the 9 pillars of Industry 4.0, try to transform our processes and our maintenance operation. So, of course, that if we want to build digital twins, if we want to correlate information, we will need to increase the amount of data that we are collecting from the equipment. And as we have equipment from in several maturity stages and with several ages, we will implement several smart sensors, heat sensors that can collect and can monitor temperature, vibration, and other signals, and can leverage some more data, useful data, for us to know the condition of the asset. Then we have some examples of using additive manufacturing to try to extend the lifespan of our equipment, and also to try to improve and make some re-engineering of some of the equipments that we have. Additive manufacturing can give us some new possibilities, and we are already testing those. Also implementing drone inspections for the pipelines, for the structures mainly, and also we are already using it to inspect the inner part of, for instance, the recovery boilers and the biomass boilers, to know the integrity of those equipment. It is a very useful technology, and it is very cheap right now to own a drone or to pay for a drone inspection. It is very easy and can go deeper into something that we cannot easily access and easily visualize. And obviously, which is very important, usage of augmented reality and mobile devices to help our field workers to perform better, to give them the information online and in real time about the condition of the assets, about the tasks that they need to perform, and to try to be as independent and to focus their attention in problem solving rather than in manual and boring processes. And last but not least, the implementation of a predictive maintenance philosophy, obviously based on the implementation of the digital twins in the machine learning algorithms, AI algorithms, in which we are already doing some projects. One of them it was very successful with Netloom, and we want to achieve the predictive maintenance level in which, at least for the critical equipment, the ones that can really be a pain in the ass, let's say, and causes some damage in the organization, some outages, we can develop some digital twins, we can build some algorithms, try to predict when the equipment will fail, and then we can prepare in advance for those outages and try to have everything ready, the spare part, the proper technicians, whatsoever. So this is key in our roadmap to try to implement this type of technologies. And just to finish this introduction, Nicholas, if you can pass. I just want to with a message. We at Navigator, we are market leaders. We have a strong position. We are confident about our knowledge. But with the new technologies that we have in place, with the pace of change that we are seeing in current world, I believe that I need to agree with Mr. Darwin, what he said like 200 years ago. So the competitiveness level that we have right now, it will not save us, or it will not be a guarantee to continue to be competitive and to be successful. We need to adapt, and the organizations that will adapt first and that will be agile enough to recognize some potential benefits of the new technologies will thrive. So we will try to keep up, and we are trying to be pioneers in the industry. We try to be innovative and always look for what the market has to offer, for the proper partners and the proper technologies to implement and to think outside of the box. So I think it's more or less like this. I don't know if you have some question, Jan. I pass the word.
Quite a few. First, I want to say I really love that quote. It's very true, especially in our time where technology changes that rapidly. Like if you look into how companies, Kodak is a good example, that have been one of the biggest companies out there in the US in around 2000, and then 10 years later they're basically bankrupt. Making a product that suddenly there was no need for anymore, like film. And it shows how important it is to adapt and then to cope with change. Another more positive example, there are ups and downs, but a company like Nokia that is basically every 20 years looking like a totally different beast, but they're still around. And now they're one of the biggest players when it comes to 5G. So this is a really interesting quote, and I really so he has a similar beard to me too, so it's perfect. Keep that in the background. What I'm really interested, you had the slide where you showed all the aspects that you look into, and that shows a lot of different things and a lot of different skill sets and a lot of things that probably, if you look into a make or buy decision, it's not something where you can just put a development team on each of them. That's not feasible. But yet they're all important to what you want to achieve from what I understand. If you really look into make a change into that reliability factor, and then if you really want to embrace digital technologies, and they play hand in hand. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the experiences you had in, I mean, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're kind of in the position within the organization, or have been so far, where you the person that looks at various threats and also looks into how can you probably put them together to build a really strong rope that's really reliable and solid. So looking from that perspective, what were the biggest challenges? And the other thing is, like, we know, and we use that a lot in pitches because it's such an infamous kind of study where we saw in the last years various studies coming out telling us how bad the success rate of these innovation projects actually are. How many IoT projects flat out fail after spending millions, same for big data and data analytics. But yet the ones that are successful can make a huge impact. Yep. And how do you, have you experienced this, and how you approach that kind of paradox?
Okay. So about the first topic, my position in the company is more or less like the Joker card in a deck of cards, let us say. Mm-hmm. So I'm the guy that is always trying to look out for the market, for the technologies, try to learn from the possible partners that we have, what kind of projects that they've run, what kind of new technologies can really make an impact in our processes, and obviously also look internally, talk with the guys in the operations in the field, know their needs, and to try to make some kind of merge between the needs that we find from the teams and what is available and what is already mature in the market for us to implement. So The program that we've designed with the backbone being the APM is fully that. We've spent like 1 year and a half, try to know what kind of technologies, what kind of partners could be put together for us to present to the board and to the guys. We had several challenges because the roadmap that we've designed, it is focused on a final target, but we know that some of the projects are not the end of the road. Some of the projects will be just the beginning, and then you need to build on top of them. But first, you need to do that first step. Okay, so if you don't experiment, if you don't do mobility, you cannot do augmented reality, for instance, because if you don't have the field workers work with field devices or mobile devices, you will not use Google Glass or whatsoever. So you need to build small steps and make everything connected in a way to improve this journey. That is the key. Another thing is, for me, it was quite challenging because we are a very traditional company. We are a chemical company. The benchmark are Nordic guys. The big competitors are the Nordic guys, which are very conservative, and usually they select one partner and they will use the technology that that partner provides. And usually in the vision of the Navigator, we tend to use this. So we select one partner, and that partner will deliver a lot of technologies or a lot of use cases. And I try to fight that, because I think that we should build an ecosystem of partners in which they can communicate with each other. We can guarantee to have one single vision about the roadmap that we have and about the applications that we deliver to the field workers. We don't want to have 20 or 13 several things or several systems working and obligate the people to learn about those systems. We want to have a single vision, so APM will be the single vision, but then we have a lot of other technologies and a lot of other partners that can contribute, and we will make sure that it can be visible on this backbone structure. So we try to work with startups, with universities, with big companies, multinational companies, and I think that the lessons that we've taken from this journey is that we can learn from all of them, and I think it is the right way to do it. It is to bring a healthy mix for us to benefit from several approaches and different kinds of past experiences. About the second part of the question, in which you asked me about failures, as we are trying to innovate, of course, that we need to
learn from them, right? So this is it's always a very big and important element.
Yeah,
they're not too costly. That's always the point.
Yeah, but no. From our side, in the department that I have, we have zero budget, €0 of budget to perform.
You told me not to say that. I remember when we talked a couple of days back.
No, because I will build on that.
Yeah.
So first of all, we have zero budget. So we need to convince our board of each euro we want to spend, even though it is on just a pilot project. So we need to, that is challenging, but I think that help us to be strong and to be a lot of selective in the projects and in the partners that we choose. Because if we are 100% sure that we can deliver something, or at least we will learn something useful for the near future, then we are comfortable enough to present it to our board and to ask for resources. So it is not very negative to have €0 of budget to manage, because every project that you want to perform, you need to be very selective, you need to be very rigorous in the partner selection, and to try to convince them that, okay, you haven't given us any budget to manage, but we want to deliver value. We've identified the needs of the guys in the field. We have a roadmap defined in which we aim in the next 5 years to reach this level. With this level, we will be more cost effective. We will have higher availability. So believe in us, give us some bits and that for us to build on. And then at the end of the road, we will all be happy because we will have an incredible journey with the ups and downs, and we will learn a lot during that journey. So we had some failures, of course, that we rely also in the way that our partners interact with us. They are very interesting also to partner with us because we tend to give our best, and we tend to give hand and help them also to develop and build a strong use case for them as well to show potential future partners or future businesses that they can have. So it is all about partnership. And of course, if something doesn't go well, okay, we will move on, collect some lessons, and try to be more assertive in the next project.
Yeah, I've seen that when we engaged in our project last year. Also in the conversation before, I've seen you talk to, as I said earlier, in the passion that you show now again. I've seen you talk to really corporate board kind of level, C-level kind of people, and I've also seen you talk to your regular blue-collar worker that has to be involved as well, because he's in the end the one that has to work with it, white-collar and blue-collar workers that you directly engage, and it's you have a touch for bonding with both, if I might say that. At least I had the feeling that this is something I've seen it as a quality of you. This way, I really wanted to invite you for a conversation like this, because I think that is key communication, right? Into all stakeholders and bringing them all on board, because if one of them misses out, the whole project might be in danger. If you, let's talk about predictive maintenance, for example, you have this weird startup that comes in with the data scientists that maybe have a lot of academic knowledge, but maybe not the best communicators in the world. You have
don't say that.
Some are, but it always depends on audience, right? There needs to be the moderated process of some sort. And on the other hand, you have engineers which are fairly busy. Usually, they need to keep things going, and they have their own stuff to do. And you need to make a point how taking a little bit of the time and basically minimizing the time that they have to give, but taking a little bit of the time can help them in the future when there's actually an outcome of this. And even though, as you mentioned earlier, there might be failures, I really like the spirit of, yes, that might happen, but let's get to see quickly what it will be. Are we moving towards success, or is it something that just doesn't work for us? Maybe it works for someone else, but not for us. And learn lessons from it for the next time. Those are things I really love. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about, especially the communication part, because I know we have some people here that are in similar positions. And maybe I think this is, as I said earlier, to me, this is always, from all the projects I've seen, is key to keep that communication going on various levels, and how you convince people to give you that money you need for these projects. And on the other hand, to really participate and make it a success eventually. And on the other hand, working, as you said earlier, with different kind of companies, with, I don't know, the really big blue chip companies of the world that offer something that maybe a startup couldn't. And on the other hand, startups that offer, especially in agility and nimbleness that the big company couldn't. And how you combine those things as well, because I know you work with both.
Yeah, you've mentioned something that is my role here, which is to be more or less a translator between what the companies have to offer in the IT language, let us say, and then the business needs. And of course, in this process, we need to fairly understand what are the business needs, what are the pains, that our field workers feel, the engineers when they need to decide, when they need to make a decision between replace an equipment or do some kind of maintenance or stop the production to see if it is any trouble. We need to convince them, and we need to first of all we need to put ourselves in their feet and understand what are the troubles, what are the difficulties, and how can we help them in the delivery of new technology and new projects that can really help them in the daily basis. We don't want to replace anybody. We just want to help them and to enhance their capacity, because here, at least in our company, we rely a lot on the knowledge that people build upon years of paper making and pulp making processes. So we just want them to be focused in the value adding. We don't want them to be focused in trying to correlate data and whatsoever painful tasks that are not value added. We want them to focus on giving decisions, giving recommendations, analyzing the data, and then do what they do best, which is keep our operations with a higher availability and deliver product at the end of the day. So that's something that is part of my job, and I think that is the of the possible success of a digital transformation or some kind of transformational processes, is to really be one of them and to understand the needs of the guys. On the other hand, we also need to convince the board. So, as you said, we need to.
That's where the money comes from, right?
Yeah. So we need to talk to the fields and realize the needs, but also we need to understand what will convince the board. But if we are aligned as the baseline with the field workers, we know that this will help us a lot to convince the board, because if we can save 5 minutes, if we can save an outage, if we can save some guy to come into the factory in the middle of the night, save that guy to come or do better decisions, that will translate in euros, that will translate in more production, in less spare part costs, less maintenance costs. So it will be easier for us to justify why we need to do some projects, even though those projects are still unknown, the results. Unknown. Because, for instance, the project that we run together, the predictive model, okay, you guys have a lot of trust in your platform, in your algorithms, in your engineers. But I need to trust you. I needed to trust you and to say, okay, I will convince the board to pay X amount of money for you to build this model based on our data, and we will extract some benefits out of it. And sometimes we are betting on the dark. Let us say, we don't know the end of the tunnel, what we will find. But we need to sell them a perspective that we will learn and we will be much more prepared to deliver value. And I think that they are willing to risk sometimes. Okay.
I think if I might interrupt you for a second there, because that is a really interesting topic. I remember when we first engaged, I was what I found interesting, and you don't always have that. So the first meeting that we met was actually with a fairly high up group of people. And what I found really interesting is, even though, yes, you couldn't know the ins and outs of the technology and you wouldn't know what the outcome is, and maybe I'm talking total rubbish, especially as a startup, there are not that many things you've done before. There's some we can show, but it's limited compared to other companies, and it's something fairly new that is somewhat hard to gauge. But what you did and what I've seen and what I think helps both sides to actually come to a positive conclusion to move on into doing something together was that you actually thought about how could we make that successful, and asked, do you agree? Is that how you see it too? Do I understand that correctly? And you haven't, it was not a one-sided pitch where I tried to convince you of something where you had no knowledge whatsoever about, which might sometimes work, sometimes not. It depends a little bit. There is that element of trust, because I will not make you get you to the same level as, for example, Kahefi here, who's also listening to us, who's our head data scientist. But what I've seen is that you try to get as close as you can and think about it logically and think about applications. And then we got into a real conversation. And hopefully I could also help a little bit with that in that meeting. But I think that is really key if you want to convince both sides. And that I found really remarkable, because it's not, unfortunately, I need to say, it's not always happening. Sometimes people just rely on you telling them what to do, and then it's really hard to convince the people that actually hold the key to the budget to jump into absolutely cold water. It's a bit, heating it up a little bit can help in that sense.
Yeah, of course, of course. We need, as I always say, we need to do our homework. We need to be prepared. We will not be specialists in the technology, but if we want to implement something, we need to try to analyze. We need to make our own mind. We need to use researchers. We need to talk with several companies, try to absorb different perspectives, and try to build our own. And then when we decide that you can be a potential partner, then we will give hands, and your success is our success, and our success is your success. So we will join forces to deliver the best project that we can do, because it is not worth it for me and for the company to just be with our sitting on our chair criticizing and say, okay, you need to do this, you need to deliver that. We also need help. We also need to give you the data. We also need to give you the context. We need to align expectations. We need to talk. Communication is key in terms of defining the expectations, in terms of defining the goals and the several milestones of the project. And I think that we've learned that along the way. Before we've talked with you, and that was curious, we've come out pretty recently with a project that aimed to build a predictive model of industrial assets, and the perspective was quite the opposite that you had. You had the humble approach, telling us, okay, we know a little bit about this, we've performed some useful projects, we need you to challenge us, give us the context, to help us define the digital twin, and then help us to build a model. That was your approach. Beforehand, with the experience that we had before with the huge tech company, they said, okay, no, don't worry, I'm cocky enough, I trust enough in my competence, give us the data that you have, and we will make something out of it, something brilliant out of it. And it doesn't work. And we've learned that that kind of approach doesn't work. We need to invest more than money. We need to invest. And I can remember that I spent some hours talking with airlines, trying to give them context, to answer some questions. Why this variable behaves like this? Why do you think that variable would be more important whatsoever? This is knowledge that we need to share. Because if we just give you the data, no context, we don't try to interact, and we will sit and wait for you to deliver something, that will not work. And this is feasible for this kind of projects that rely a lot in data, but some other ones to use mobile devices, to use augmented reality, to produce parts in 3D printing. We need to set up our expectations. We need to be in close communication, to redesign if needed, to change some bits and that's because along the way we understand that maybe that's not the line of action. We need to deviate a little bit. And if we communicate with a partner, if we show that we are interested, the majority of times the partner will accommodate and will be happy to receive that kind of feedback as you did. And it was a great partnership that we've developed. And I think that it was quite successful for this because we've kept an opening communication line. Whenever you had some doubt, you asked us. Whenever we had some doubt and whenever we wanted to adjust the expectations, the goals of the pilot, even the timelines, the time frame, we've kept an open discussion. And I believe that's key to this kind
Agree.
of initiatives, because every implementation and every client will be different. I believe that.
This is something you hear actually quite a bit in conversations. I remember once someone told me, also a big energy company it was at the time, it's a bit back, so we didn't really start this NetLoom at the time, but it was a conversation I had with a C-level manager of a big energy company, and basically he ran through a similar project, and what a lot of companies do is they just throw engineers at them. So he had like 20 data scientists sit there, but no mechanism installed to actually communicate and understand each other's processes and uniqueness and the things that make that company and the assets in their detail, on the other hand, on the technical side, and what are the problems that are specific to this company in the combination of assets they are using. Because you can't just copy paste in this kind of industry. At least not in my experience. If somebody comes up with it, I'm happy to see it, and if it works, I'll be impressed. But it hasn't happened yet. So yeah, I mean, from our perspective, it's always important, and that's what NetLoom is like. That's what we developed it for. I don't want to make this into an advertisement show. That's not really what the plan is of it. But to have this element also on the technical side, to actually have this digital twin, and I want to talk a bit about that with you too. We have about 10 more minutes. What digital twins means for you, what that buzzword actually, what you understand under it, and what you think it can help you with, and where it's maybe misplaced. But to finish that thought earlier, I think the way we understand it from our perspective is that it's an element that helps all stakeholders to be able to work together more easy. So the engineer can just draw the things he knows about the machine and the elements that are important to it, and it's easy to implement certain behavior patterns that he knows will occur, even though he might not be able to put it in a way that is easily understandable for somebody that has a very different background. It's more the experience value and the things that he learned over decades, maybe working with this kind of machine. How to communicate that is always a big issue, and that's to us what our understanding of digital twinning also entails, is being able to communicate that in a way that's consumable, not only for algorithms on the one hand, obviously it needs to be understandable, consumable for them, but also for other people that have maybe a bit of a different background academically or in terms of experiences. And so before I got rambling on about that topic, because it's obviously close to my heart, but I think this communication bridge is really important. I'm not saying it's the end all of everything, putting a digital platform there which helps you communicate and which helps you conserve some knowledge. But it's, I think, a good puzzle piece. But in general, that topic is really important. And what I would like to know then, again, to get to what I started to ask you earlier, in terms of digital twins, you had that experience, at least in our project. I'm not sure you worked with that concept before in some way. I guess you did in some way, if you called it that way or if you called it differently. What do you think where do you think this is something important, this can actually help? What do you understand under this buzzword? Again, it's used for pretty much everything nowadays, including I've seen somebody drawing a cat drawing of a, I think it was a toilet actually. It was a like interior design, and they called it a digital twin. And it's like, then there's the 3D element, where I think it was Singapore or someplace, had basically a 3D representation of the whole city, including trunks of trees and a park bench and I don't know what, and called it a digital twin. You could call a lot of things that way, but in an industrial context, coming from your experience and the kind of companies you work with, where do you see this applicable, and where do you see it can actually help?
Yeah, I think that you give a quite good example of what I don't perceive as a digital twin. A digital representation of an object is not a digital twin. It is a digital representation. And for us, it's important because if we want to implement or to change the layout of our mill, we need to have that in 3Ds to help us to know where this pipeline is located, where the motor is located, the pump and whatsoever. If we want to build another line, where should we put it? That is useful, but for me, that's not the digital twin. The digital twin for me, it's data, it's behavior, it's simulation about equipment's running, not the static equipment. Because if we do a representation, the representation is static. End of end of sentence. It's static. It is a drawing. It is quite fancy because we can rotate, we can see from upwards and whatsoever, but it is not very valuable in terms of operations and maintenance. From operations and maintenance point of view, I believe that digital twin is trying to aggregate all of the important data around the system and how we can build some useful correlations and try to build to start to climb the pyramid between data, information, knowledge, and then decision. And digital twin will be the key element to reach the decision level, okay? And even to automate the decision process. Because with digital twins, we can run some simulations before starting up some new facility. We can try to predict behavior. We can try to experiment several kind of interactions. We can do some kind of analytics that we are not able to do right now. Okay, so for me that is digital twin. How we can or how we perceive value on this. I think it is quite useful because it can be a common understanding between operations, maintenance, engineering, all the departments. If we see a digital twin chart, let us say, or a representation, a diagram representation of the facility, everybody will understand that. Sometimes in the control rooms we have those diagrams, but they are too complex for the majority of the guys to understand. So I think that digital twin will need some simplicity for several stakeholders to understand and to try to gain some knowledge out of it. Okay, so for operations, the control room is good and the level of detail is good, but for maintenance it isn't, because that's a mess of boards and alarms and whatsoever. So digital twin will mean simplifying those diagrams and focusing on the important parts of that system. So one thing which is key came back to the cycle that I've talked about criticality. We should focus the attention in the critical equipment, the critical facilities that can stop the entire mill, the entire production line, that can give us important outages or with higher cost to repair. Those are the ones that we should focus first, try to represent in a digital twin, and then build some models on it. That can be useful either for operations, try to fine-tune the operation targets, and also for maintenance, try to see the condition, the health status of the equipment, and try to predict when we need to perform some kind of maintenance, and run from a predictive logic, from a preventive logic in which we stop to replace something in advance, even though the equipment or the component is in good shape. But as we don't know, we preventively change that and pass for a predictive approach in which we can know with a certain degree of assurance the equipment is good, is running good, is having good performance, and then I know that in the next month, in the next 2 months, whatsoever, I will need to prepare an intervention because it is a trend line, it is showing some patterns. I know that maybe the bearing, maybe some kind of component is degrading, so I already know when to act and try to minimize the impact of that outage. So for me, digital twin is enabler of shifting the preventive to predictive philosophy.
I've always find it interesting that this perceived simplicity that's needed to actually keep it able, or keep various stakeholders being able to work with it. Maybe also the ability to represent it slightly differently to different groups. And on the other hand, still keep the necessary complexity, because these systems are not easy. I mean,
Of course.
there's no way around it. In the background, and have that translation is always, to me, a very interesting transformation, an interesting process to get to that point. Maybe a last question to you. I mean, you have been touching a lot of technologies. You showed a nice overview early on in your presentation from various aspects. What's your personal vision? Let's leave your employer aside and what you want to achieve in that context, but your personal vision for the future of technology, in the sense of in an industrial context, like in a work context, but also maybe personally. Where do you see things going, and what is the perfect outcome you would be wishing for?
That's a good question, and I need to be very synthetic, because otherwise we will have more than 1 hour just for me to answer this.
Actually like 5 minutes.
Okay,
So.
I will be very synthetic. I think that several decades ago, industry and process industry, chemical industry like our own, was pretty advanced one, with automated loops of control, with no field workers, just guys looking at in control rooms. Everything was controlled, everything was connected, and that was state of the art back then. But that was in the 80s. Right now, in our daily lives, we have technology which makes our life more easier, and we are not using it in our daily operations. Okay, so right now we do every aspect of our lives with smartphones, and I think that some of the companies are not using or not leveraging that. So I think that we need to bring all those technologies that are used in social media, for the correlations of content, for instance, and for predicting the behavior of people, of what they are, what decisions they will make. We can bring those up and try to put it in a good term alongside our field workers, our engineers, to help them to make good decisions. Of course, that my vision is not all fancy like in sci-fi movies, where everybody has a visor incorporated in their glasses or whatsoever. It's not futuristic.
Damn, I wanted to get one tomorrow.
Damn, but I think that we have a good leap to make. We can really leave some of the tasks that we do today, like doing reports, collecting data to correlate, doing some boring meetings to try to decide something. Those will be things from the past, because if we rely on powerful systems that we will apply, if we rely on the models that will run those systems, we will have some recommendations, and we need to apply our knowledge, apply our expertise to know, okay, the system gave me this recommendation based on the past, based on the history, based on what I know from the facility, what I know from the board, what I know from managing risks, I will select this way. And these are the only value-added tasks that I think humans will perform in taking decisions. Because we can rely on the system, but sometimes systems don't have context enough, or sometimes it is very expensive to build or to update the context of the stock markets, of the ideas of the boards, whatsoever. So I think in the future we will hand over recommendations for our guys to decide, and to be very I don't know what to say, very the decisions will be made with much more comfort than right now. Right now it is based on expertise, and a new guy comes in, it will feel very anxious to make a decision because he lacks on that expertise, and in the future the system will help him figure it out and to give him the proper correlation, try to take the best decision.
Yeah, that is. Let's hope that's how it works in the future. I think
Hopefully.
a really important, I think a really important part is to get all this, as you mentioned earlier, there are various aspects that you look into, to get them, to melt them together in something that actually works. I mean, I always like to use that pitch where I say, currently, oftentimes it feels like you have 20 solutions side by side. Like you do something in predictive maintenance, you have that nice solution for virtual reality and this and this and then various algorithms, also optimization, prediction, who knows what. But they live side by side using the same information base. They don't really interact at all, mostly, at least in most settings that we are seeing nowadays. Or if they do, it's very specific, very limited. And the ability to extend on that is very hard because they're basically, if you look into data, you buy 10 different IoT platforms side by side. Mostly, there's one from your startup which has this amazing algorithm for a very specific thing. Then you work with the IBM's, SAPs, and who knows what of the world side by side. They also have, I heard, good solutions here and there, but what is really lacking, I think, and this guides into really helping with decision making and really having that one point of reference, is having them work together. So it feels a little bit like if you want to use a new app for your phone, but you have to buy a new phone and install a different operating system, and it's really hard to switch, right? And then you handle both of them, and so it sometimes feels a bit like this, and bringing that together, this is actually, I think, very key to that vision, and it's what we're working on. I know you working on, and so let's see what the future brings. I'm actually excited.
Let me just add up something that is huge.
If you're okay that we run a bit late in our Q&A, go ahead.
Okay. No, this is just very, very important, and it was a piece of the puzzle that we've learned later on after we started to do pilots, after we started to know what was the roadmap. Then we figured out that we need to take a step back and try to implement a proper data management policy, because that is crucial for what you said. So sometimes we have data sources there, but they are not able to communicate with each other. We don't have the proper correlations in terms of time frame, in terms of categories for the data, in terms of relations. Okay, so I am collecting this data set, this and this, but those references for the specific equipment are not the same. So how can I correlate all this information and try to automate the process? It isn't possible. So maybe we need to start from the beginning to revise the names that we call our things, the references between all the data sources, the way that we save data, storage data, and usage that we make out of those. If we use them every day, we need to take care in a proper way. If we just use them once a month, if we just have some kind of feedback or some kind of inspection once a year or whatsoever, that has a different path. So data management is key to deliver a proper roadmap for this. Sorry, I totally forgot, and I think that it is key from what you're talking about. Sorry.
Duarte, thank you. We are running out of time, but we still want to answer a few questions. Nicholas, I heard we have some.
Yeah, I'll send it to you in private so you can read it as well. But Adonai, Adonai asked, with the increase of machines and connected items due to the implementation of IoT technologies, also increases the need to ensure data security. How do you manage the IoT data security issue in your company?
That's a very tricky question. Right now, we have some fights with our IT department and we with our guys because we
trust me, you're not the only ones.
yeah, but we put them in places that they are not comfortable, and this is rational, and we still need to revise the way that we are implementing these kind of solutions. Right now, we are trying to keep up in an on-premises solution, try to avoid using the cloud because we don't have the proper connection, internet and communication connection to assure that we can run all the models and all the platform in real time using the cloud, for instance, and B, of course, keeping our secrets for ourselves and making sure that we will not reveal some information that can danger our competitiveness. But on the other hand, we are making a huge effort for those guys to prepare an hybrid approach, at least, because we feel that if we can't run some application, some platform in the cloud, we will lose the potential and the possibilities that they have. Because for me, in my understanding, the possibilities and the major positive points of running something in the cloud is that we are leveraging the usage of thousands of other users, other clients, constant updates, constant new features that are being launched. And if we stay on-prem, we'll have extra costs of infrastructure, we'll have extra costs to update. And sometimes, as you know, our IT guys are not fancy for us to update our system every now and then. Sometimes they ask us, no, just once a year or twice a year, no more than that, because it can give us some trouble and whatsoever. So don't do that. And we know that with the constant releases that we have running things on clouds, maybe every other month, every 3 months, we have new features that are very useful for our business case that we are not taking advantage. So we are pushing and we are making our our approach like this. We try to have use cases for them to perceive the value that we are losing in not moving to the cloud, or at least not doing some things in the cloud. So first of all, we need to tell them that we already have the conditions to do so, we already have the partner, we already have the use case, then you need to give us the conditions to do that and to run those in the cloud.
Thank you. I don't have anything to add, but it is definitely a common problem, and also on the on-prem side, integrating things like DevOps and continuous integration, or there are a lot of topics. But then we talk another hour, so I stop even elaborating on that a bit more. But maybe we find an episode where we can talk about those topics as well. Nicholas, do we have some more questions?
Yeah, Paula is asking, you said that you have done a digital twin project. What was/is a critical factor in implementing a digital twin project, in your opinion?
Duarte, you want to go first?
Yes, I can go. The critical factor is for us, it was the eager to know more about those assets. We, in our specific use case, we selected some equipment that were giving us some trouble, and we couldn't identify the root cause of that trouble. And we couldn't, with the means that we had at that time, we couldn't make the proper correlations to achieve that root cause. So that was the critical point for us to select that equipment and not another one. And I believe that gave us the visibility for the results that we've achieved. So if we have selected an equipment that wasn't critical, or that we know all about their operation, all about the data, all about the behavior, if we didn't have that challenge, maybe the results weren't as good as the ones that we've achieved. So I think that was the critical factor for us to understand how to choose the proper equipment and to try to help us solve a problem, try to help us gain some knowledge out of something that it is beyond our capacity. I don't know, Jan, if you want to add something.
Yeah, obviously, I'm a bit biased on that topic, but I mean, what we do comes from experience in running digital twin projects. We've done quite a few of them by now. That's also where our technology and our software is based on that experience. And I think key to making it successful is not to want too much in the beginning. A lot of projects try to model a complete shop floor or a complete water network from A to Z in a matter of a couple weeks or months. And you put a lot of work into it, and it's a high price you pay for that in terms of money and also in terms of time. You have to invest a lot of time by your own engineers that know exactly how that looks like. I think it's very important to start in a somewhat limited scope. Look exactly where do you think you make the most impact, where you have the biggest impact in looking at, where you have maybe the biggest problems, or where you think you can offer the best insights for your clients. A lot of the digital twinning projects actually we are doing are based not as much on offering benefits to your own operations, but offering more insights to your clients. Let's look into water network. Let's look into electric grid, where you have clients that use water, that use energy, electricity, and they might want to get more insights. Or there is some other company in between that can benefit on certain insights, and you can sell that to them, and then there's a business model, right? But if you, as I said earlier, want too much in the beginning, I think that's killing most of these projects, because then you model for months on end and you don't have any results whatsoever. You couldn't even integrate any analytics in it, because what does the best digital twin in the world bring you if you don't gain any insights about what you look at? So then having that common in the same at the same time, having that common understanding of, as you mentioned earlier, data model, what is what, how is it named? It doesn't have to be necessarily in a database, but in your digital twin, it should be one standardized approach to things. Yeah. A pump is a pump, and it has these kind of the attributes, and they're always the same. And sometimes the numbers might change, but a pump is a pump. Right, so you can actually build a general model of that and integrate it into different networks again. So even if you start small, you don't have to throw all that away and start anew to actually grow and scale, but you use that as a basis to then grow bit by bit and get more and more insights as you go. And that way we usually, we target to have first results of some sort, small analytics, first insights within maximum a couple of months. Actual work time, obviously it always depends on how much time the client has to actually work on it and so on. But if you focus on it within a couple of months, there should be first results. Otherwise it's starting to go very far and very long, and it's hard to convince, going back to where the money is, right? It's hard to convince the manager that you spend millions or hundreds of thousands in painting a nice picture of your known assets. If you don't really show there is a real reason why I do this. I can integrate your analytics much faster. It's much more scalable. I can press a button and I have the digital twin of the next asset, for example. Or I have analytics insights that you couldn't do before because you didn't have a standardized data model. Anything like that, that's individual, obviously, what the benefit will be. But if you can present that very quickly, and their key is to start small and then actually scale from there and standardize. Those are, from our perspective, the key things to getting a digital twin project going and make it successful. Yeah, and now I'm rambling on again. I know.
No. Let me just add something which is very important, because as an engineer, I've learned in the university to draw frontiers. Okay, I need to analyze the system. I will draw a frontier from that part of. It's not It's not my responsibility. And I think that is the key. You need to isolate and to focus. Okay, I will not conquer the world in 20 days. Okay, so I will need to do this, and I will need to make sure that I will learn from this frontier, from this system pretty well. I will have solid knowledge out of it. If you can choose equipment or systems that can be easily scalable, it will be beneficial. Because if you have similar equipment with similar contact, so the same type of operations, the same type of fluids, the same type of pressures whatsoever, you can easily build the model for one of those and then try to scale. And that's why, for instance, in power grids, in like transportations whatsoever, it is, I believe it is much easier because the systems are look-alike, and you can build the predictive model for one of those, do some tweaks for that specific one, and then use that for the entire fleet. And in our case, we needed to be clever to select one which was causing us pain, so we could easily get out some knowledge out of it, and also think about scaling up. And that's why we are already studying the scale-up process, and we will have some more conversations about that to try to deploy to other equipments, other mills, and this is a continuous project.
Right. Do you have time for one last question?
For me, yes.
Awesome. Nicholas, we have another question.
Yeah, we do. So Lucas is asking, how does a digital twin fit in a digital transformation strategy?
In our specific case for asset management and maintenance, as we want to achieve the predictive level, so right now we are mostly corrective and preventive. We have some part of condition-based, of course. We do some inspections, we collect some data, we run some analytics, very simple. I'm sorry, very simple ones. We want to achieve the predictive level, so digital twins will be key for us to do the model, to rethink about all the interactions of those systems, simplify, as I said, and then put the algorithms, build the algorithms around that system, and finally collect the predictions about that model and just our strategy and our plans, maintenance plans around the recommendations that we will collect from the digital twin. That's it. As simple as that.
I think that's one of the key benefits and the cool things about digital twins and this more standardized approach, that you can actually break things down into its parts. Like in your case, we had an algorithm which was developed by Karl-Heinz here in the chat also. And it obviously is not one monolithic algorithm. There is some preparations. There are various steps in data preparation and various algorithms that play together. And then in the end, you have an outcome, which was quite positive in our case, I would say. You could make a business case. We presented a nice slide and all that. But you could actually draw on a piece of paper how these things interact based on the standardized naming of the digital twin, integrating the actual data coming from the sensors, including the physical assets that are in play, including the various stages of data preparation and the process it goes through. So in my view, it's a shame if you leave your digital twin just at the physical level. And the real benefit actually comes when you extend it into those things where you can also integrate all the analytic and all the digital levels that come above that, all the data processing levels, and make them available for people to understand, okay, it's not some magic in a box, as a lot of systems appear to be, but I can actually see how the process, how the decision-making process kind of works. Of course, there is still a neural network here and there, which I can't break into the last part, but at least I understand there's data that I know from my machine, from my sensor. There is some basic metadata about my asset that I know about, I'm familiar with, and that goes through a certain process. And like in a manufacturing shop floor, there's a nice product in the end, and I can work with that. but it's not some magic happening that I don't trust. And on the other hand, I can just replace bits and pieces in that process, right? So I can improve it without having to redo the whole process. And that's, I think, where you get structure and clarity through using digital twinning approaches as we understand them. As I said, it's a buzzword. It can mean a lot of things, but that's how we understand digital twin. Okay, I think I know you have another meeting in 15 minutes. So I think that would wrap it up quite nicely with that question. If there are any other questions you have, if Nicholas, if you have more, we'll look into potentially replying digitally afterwards. We can't promise anything, unfortunately, but we look into getting back to you. If you want to talk about these topics a little bit more, as I already mentioned in the beginning, please do go to our website, netloom.io. There is a button, a really big button that is called Start Your Journey. And there you can book either a meeting with me personally, or you can register for our newsletter. You can just get in touch with us. You can send us an email. We are happy to talk about this topic. And maybe it's something where we find a good way to work together, or maybe it's just a nice conversation. I'm happy to do it either way. With that, we will have our next digital twins around the world episode in 2 weeks. Then we will welcome Kelvin Yu from Shanghai. He has a lot of experience working with utilities. He's been working in the energy sector. He's been working with Shanghai Utility for a long time, and he has been working internationally. He is running currently projects with his own company in Southeast Asia, in China, and he is really interested in digital transformation topics. We have been working together on microgrid projects in Southeast Asia. So this will also be a very interesting conversation, and I'm looking forward to it. It will be a bit earlier because he's in China, as I said, and we don't want him to have to do this in the middle of the night. So we will already have this next episode at 2 p.m. Central European time. Oh, excuse me, at 1 p.m. Central European time on the 14th of October. And it would be great to welcome you all again. And this will also be on YouTube. We will put it online within the next few days. To all of you that watch it on YouTube, I'm sorry, we will not be able to put your questions into the Q&A, but again, please do visit our website and state any questions you have, get in touch with us, and be there live next time. And thank you very much. With that, Duarte, it was a pleasure.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and all the best for Netloom and for this series of webinars. If you want to contact me further, my name in LinkedIn is Duarte Filipe, as you see. I will be very interesting to get in touch with you. And if Netloom finds my participation needed for next webinar to develop on some other topic, please feel free. I like very much to
we'll invite you again, definitely.
I will like very much to participate with you. It was a pleasure, Jan. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, Karl-Heinz. And best of luck.
Great, and check him out on his social media profiles. He's a bit of an influencer, maybe in the future. he's going there. He's getting there. He's posting a lot of interesting things, at least when he has time. So do look at it and do follow him. Thank you very much. See you in 2 weeks, and have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.